Tom, I want to start off by talking about Bernard Drainville, which I guess we'll be doing for a little while now, because, hey, what are you going to do? It's in the news. So I clipped a little piece here from his interview yesterday with Maya Johnson. We played some of this earlier in the show as well. I want you to comment on what you hear in this little segment here, where I guess Maya had just asked him what he thinks the CAC could do going forward to, forget the divide that's happening right now and bring people together, is what he said.
I'm a little upset, maybe too strong a word, but concerned by what happened with Bill 96. Honestly, when you look at this bill, it's moderate. I get a sense that some leaders within the English-speaking community fed a fire of rage and discontent against 96. I don't think the substance justifies that. I think it's a moderate bill, Maya, and I think most rational English-speaking Quebecers that I would sit with and to whom I would explain the bill, the way I understand it, I think I could convince them that this is a perfectly reasonable bill.
Fire and rage of discontent, Tom.
Yeah.
That's
man.
us.
Well, first of all, kudos to Maya Johnson for a great interview, by the way. I really thought that she hit the perfect tone because she wasn't trying to bait him or get angry at him, but she just very slowly, calmly plowed through her questions. And frankly, it was the worst interview he gave yesterday, and she gave the best interview of anybody. So let's go to that. It's the fire of rage and discontent, and it's some leaders of the English community making this stuff up. Okay, let's go to that. Moderate. Okay, fact. Bill 96 has search and seizure provisions that are patently unconstitutional because you have a constitutional right to be protected from unreasonable search and seizure. Why is it unreasonable? Well, because they allow language police to go into your business with 25 or more employees, take your computers, take your cell phones, investigate to see if you're using too much English. That's unreasonable. This is a free and democratic society. That's to be done without warrant and not even based on a complaint that you know about. It could be an anonymous tip or something like that. So that is just one example of many. There's a guarantee in the Constitution that English and French speaking people will have equal access to the courts in 3 provinces, Manitoba, Quebec, and New Brunswick. This breaks with that. There's certain English documents from Canada that will no longer be considered authentic. You're going to have to go through the incredible hassle of getting everything translated. It will be harder to hire people in the English sector of the health and social service world, and that is something that will make it more difficult to access health and social services. That's the great work done by Eric Maldoff, and there's a whole coalition of people. And by the way, saying that this is some immoderate leaders of the English-speaking community, last time I checked, the College of Physicians and Surgeons expressed exactly the same fears about the ability to provide health and social services in English. So Drainville has clearly never read the bill. He's a clever polemicist. He likes putting things together the way he did yesterday, saying, if I sat down with you, I could explain it to you because it's moderate. I can guarantee you that Bernard Drainville has never read Bill 96 because if he had, he'd know the things that we just said. And no, it's not moderate. It's a direct attack on the English-speaking community of Quebec, full stop.
Yeah, although you used that key word, like that Natasha brought up when we talked about this, he said his understanding of the bill, right? That's the word he used to kind of buy himself some safe space.
Yeah. But he doesn't understand it because he's never read it. So he's making stuff up. He's just repeating lines that are prepared for him, and he's trying to blame the victim. He's saying, there must be some leaders in the English-speaking community making stuff up. No, Mr. Drainville, if you want to sit down with me, and let's say Julius Gray, and why not Eric Maldoff, we'll walk you through it. We'll explain to you the search and seizure provisions. We'll explain to you why it's an attack on the English-speaking community's institutions, why the English Montreal School Board has had to go to court to fight this thing. By the way, high five to them, because courage to stand up to these things is in short supply in Canada right now.
I mean, Tom, I just want to point out that you sound completely hysterical to me, and I think you're stoking
fire and rage, Natasha. Fire and rage from
That's
Tom
what
Mulcair.
I'm getting a lot of.
Fire and rage.
I'm getting a lot of that from you, Tom. So just let's all take a deep breath and try and calm down
I
here.
think the CAC is going to send me to a re-education camp if they ever win the next election. Oh, by the way, that got even more difficult today because I see that our friend Fitzgibbon is in a spot of trouble as well. Oh, it's terrible when that comes up because he's had so many problems. You'd think they'd leave the poor man alone, but the CAC is in a bit of trouble because of Mr. Fitzgibbon having supper with a lobbyist who was had been involved in a company that just got a massive government subsidy to the tune of like 90 some odd million bucks. But Mr. Fitzgibbon says his private suppers and who he has supper with is nobody's business. But he says there will be an investigation of it. So I guess we're all going to wait to see the result of that.
So wait, it's nobody's business, but there will be an investigation. Okay.
Yes,
again, making perfect sense.
Yeah, and again, stoking fires, Tom. I wanted to know what you thought about Bernard.
Mr. Legault said there's no problem here.
Oh,
and every
of course.
time, Mr. Fitzgibbon has broken the law several times. So once he even went to the penalty box for a few months, and then he was welcomed with open arms back into Mr. Legault's cabinet. So, boys will be boys.
Yes, nothing to see here, people. Just move along. Everything is fine and dandy. Nothing to worry about. What do you think about...
The comparison to the Duplessis era, for those who have read about it or actually recall it, is absolutely spot on. This is exactly what we're living. Strong government based on nationalism, attacking minorities. Back in Duplessis' day, the religious minority that he used to target, well, there was a lot of anti-Semitism, but there was also a very direct attack. Their favorite target was the Jehovah's Witnesses. They had a padlock law. I mean, all these things that were thrown out by the Supreme Court, but this is going back 65 years. And somehow this is that's when Legault was born. And he seems to be constantly channeling the ghost of Maurice Duplessis. It's quite something to behold.
We also were both struck about how Bernard Drainville is kind of speaking like he's already won the election, and he seems to already have sort of appointed himself as deputy premier.
Yeah. Yes, well, he has been getting a little bit ahead of himself. I think that Legault will have a little bit to say about that once the election actually takes place. My favorite part, you have to follow Quebec City stuff because we lived there for years. So Catherine and I, still very, very close to Quebec City, a place that we love. And there's this whole plan for a third link between the South Shore and the North Shore, because right now there's the very old Quebec Bridge. It's a railway bridge, and it's not in great shape, and so you can't count on that for too long, or at least you don't know how long you'll be able to count on it. The Pierre Laporte Bridge went through some major renos last summer, and it's only 50-some-odd years old, but it's not going to be there forever. You can't have a metropolitan area of almost 1 million people. That's what you got in Quebec City today, with only 1.5 bridges. So there's been a promise long-standing to build another bridge or some other link. Well, Legault came up with a plan after 4 years there. He's just going to have a double tunnel, and it's going to do this and that. But, of course, people like Drainville, and especially Caroline Saint-Hilaire, she used to mock me when I used to plead, no, you actually do need some sort of new link. You can't leave people alone. She would say, it's this stuff for Quebec City, this third link, it's all baloney. Of course, 3 days ago, when she became an official candidate for Legault's CAQ, she goes, well, actually, the project has evolved. It's gotten better because now there's going to be a reserved lane for public transit. Actually, the new project is worse than the old project, the one that she used to criticize on that score. So, and by the way, this is Lévis, where Drainville's going to be ranked.
Exactly.
They desperately want this tunnel to go through because it pops out in Lévis. So guess what? He's changed his tune too. No, nothing to criticize. It's a great project. He knew that all along.
And on it goes. Tom, I did want to just bring up one thing. We're going to have Leslie Lewis on just after 5:35, and my question to you is, she seems to. I mean, if I'm looking at this from what we hear on a regular basis, we talk about Patrick Brown, we talk about Jean Charest, and of course Pierre Poilievre. She seems to kind of fall in between the cracks here. So, how much sway will she have if this is not a first ballot win? Do you think?
Well, let's start with the end of your question. If it's not a first ballot win, because as soon as this thing started, Poilievre was so fast out of the starting blocks on saying, okay, this guy's got a real chance of winning it on the first ballot. He was just going like gangbusters. He would call a meeting at 2 days' notice, and there'd be 7,000 people in a hall in Edmonton or Calgary. And this guy's going to be hard to beat. Then all of a sudden, at one of his debates, he fires the governor of the Bank of Canada. Oopsie, you can't do that. It's not in the law. And you sound a little bit crazy when you say that, Mr. Poilievre. So a lot of people were starting to shy away from him, and it benefited Charest in particular. People say, well, he's a moderate, reasonable guy, smart, and done this stuff before. Maybe he should be our guy. But Poilievre was not to be dissuaded. He's been chugging along. And the numbers they put up, okay, they're claiming over 300,000 memberships for Poilievre. If that's true, this thing is over. Okay, period, just full stop. If Poilievre has sold 300,000 memberships, this thing is cooked. But if he doesn't win it on the first ballot with those 300,000, and if they turn out to be people who were signed up and didn't sign up and aren't actually going to vote on the day of, and it does go to a second or third or fourth round, yes, Leslie Lewis will be in play. I think she could just as easily beat either Brown or Charest, given the incredible support that she's got. But nobody's saying that. They're all talking about the 150,000 number that Brown put up, and then within 2 hours of that, 2 sitting members of Parliament of only 4 who were supporting Patrick Brown backed away. They said they're now supporting Poilievre. So I think that type of backbencher that you've absolutely never heard of is the type of person who's sort of going, okay, which way is the wind going here? Okay, looks like Poilievre's got this in a lock, so we're just going over to him. So I think that between Patrick Brown and Charest and Leslyn Lewis, the 3 of them together probably have just about the same number of votes as Poilievre. The other people are not even in play. And it's going to really depend on whether or not Poilievre gets 50% plus 1 on the first ballot. After that, if he doesn't get it, then there's going to be a fight.
All right.